Experience the evolution of accuracy with the new Browning X-Bolt 2. Guys, this rifle is something else. With the introduction of the X-Bolt, Browning has set a new standard in the development of bolt-action rifles. It was created around the goal of total accuracy, where every component worked in unison to improve downrange performance straight out of the box, from windswept tundras to rocky peaks high above the tree line to African plains and everywhere in between. The X-Bolt delivered the tack-driving accuracy a Browning rifle is respected for. And that's super true, guys. I really like this rifle from a standpoint of, like, it's not super heavy, it's not super light. I put a really nice scope on it. I love that Veritech stock because that is like one of those pieces of accuracy that, that interface between the rifle and the shooter. Not everybody's the same size. The DLX trigger, you can get the Plus magazine system for extra rounds. Great all-around rifle in the field. For those of you that are looking for a rifle this year to take to the field that you can feel real confident in and get really comfortable with, this is the rifle to check out. The Browning X-Bolt 2 should be one of your top contenders. Link is in the show notes. Back in the old days, there was this program called Layaway, where you can go into like a store and start making payments on something, some high dollar ticket item, and once you paid that off every month, it was yours. You could take it home. That's how I bought my first deer rifle from the Marine Corps PX on Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, and it was the first weapon that I bought that I purchased myself. It wasn't a hand-me-down, it wasn't my dad's, it wasn't anything like that. So I went and I picked out this 30-06, and I just didn't have a lot of money, and so I did the layaway program, but I needed a scope on it, and the cheaper scopes were all sold out, and so I bumped up to like this entry-level Leupold scope and put that on the layaway program and had them all, put the whole package together for me and all that. Made the payments and finally got to bring it home. Ever since then, almost every rifle I've owned has had a Leupold scope. In fact, I'm having a custom rifle built this year, and it's going to have the Leupold Mark 5 HD scope on it. I just killed a buffalo with that scope. It's a really great product. And Leupold, guys, you know them. Everybody knows Leupold. They've been around since like 1907. They started as like a special instrument company or something like that. But these American-made products are fantastic. Whether you're looking for a spotter, binos, a rifle scope, accessories, tripods, bipods, all that kind of stuff. You can find it all at Leupold.com. And I'd really appreciate if you supported this American company that has a great American story. And I couldn't be a bigger fan of a company, and I'm so happy and thrilled that they've chosen to partner with the Western Huntsman. Thanks to Leupold, and thanks to you guys for supporting our great sponsors. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, your host, coming at you from the Mobile Team Lodge studio in undisclosed location in Wyoming.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. We're at the Four Horse Outfitter camp here in northeast Wyoming.
Yes.
And I am joined today by my good buddies, Fonzy Haskell, return guest, I should say Commissioner Fonzy Haskell, sir.
Yes, I like that.
And my good buddy Brandon Mason from Eastmans. He is, what is your job title at Eastmans exactly?
It changes daily, I think.
Yeah?
No, I wear a lot of hats, but largely I handle our partnership relations and just building partnerships in the industry. And yeah, it's good.
Sounds like a glorified cat herder to me.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, glorified cat herder. I like that term. And Fonzie, you're like the managing guide or guide manager or outfitter manager? What is your title here?
So here at Four Horse Outfitters, I'm known as the outfitter of record. So in the state of Wyoming, through the Wyoming State Board of Outfitters and Professional Guides, that's a title that they give. You don't necessarily have to own the business, but you can be the outfitter and manage all that stuff. So that's my title. Matt Birch owns Four Horse Outfitters. I'm his outfitter of record. I hold the outfitter's license. I do all the scheduling, booking, and keeping permits up to date and current and all that fun, glamorous stuff.
Speaking of herding cats, right?
Yeah, that's herding cats, man. If I ever heard herding cats before. So somebody's looking online for like an outfitter, and they're like, hey, I want to book, and they call. It's you they talk to talk about dates. And how long you been doing that?
I've been the outfitter of record with Four Horse Outfitters since, I think, 2014 or 15. I don't remember when we got our outfitter's license. Prior to that, we were partnered with some other outfitters, and I've been here for 27 years. I've been here since 1998, guiding hunters and working on this ranch that's also known as Pickerel Land and Cattle Company. And then the family also owns a rodeo company, Birch Rodeo Company, so they raise bucking horses and bucking bulls. And so, yeah, we get to do a lot of different stuff here.
Everything West in one company kind of thing.
Exactly.
And this is the Western Huntsman.
Exactly.
Now,
how appropriate.
Right?
Cool, huh?
And the Western Huntsman with Eastmans.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make any sense. They should have changed their name years ago.
Westmans.
Yeah.
No, I like it. I always kind of like that whole two-tone thing of Eastmans. Eastmans is like the authority of Western hunting, right? And I've always been obviously a big fan of the brand, and it's just been awesome to be able to go hunting finally with somebody from Eastmans officially.
Yeah.
And how did this even come together?
Well, it's been a long time coming. I mean, we've known each other for a few years now with, the Western Huntsman becoming a part of Eastmans and all the things that we do. And, but, seeing each other at Hunt Expo, talking on the phone, emailing, texting, all that stuff is fine. But there's nothing like spending hunting camp together.
I know.
And we been working with Four Horse now for a few years. And we were like, who should we try to take on a mule deer hunt there? And we throw out a lot of names, and I don't know what it was. This one day, Scott and I kind of looked at each other and went, Jim. We got to take Jim.
That's awesome.
And so
thanks, Reekers, by the way, for listening.
Yeah, so it's been great. I mean, look at how much in the last 2.5 days we know so much more about each other than we did all these years, so it's worth it.
It really like breaks down those barriers, because it was kind of like this formal, friendship at first, and a little all businessy and stuff, and then it kind of grew, and now, man, I'd share hunting camp with you anytime. Not Fonzy, but definitely you.
I don't blame you.
No, I'll tell you what's funny is we was talking about Reekers. Look at this shoe, man. Look at this freaking boat for all of you guys. This is Reeker's shoe. I could put a boat anchor on this thing and go fishing. I've never seen a shoe this big.
He's not a small human being.
No. He's really not. I don't know how he fits in this Team Lodge trailer.
Yeah, that shows you how big they are. I'm
door.
crammed on the bunks, and this table moves away, and these convert into a queen size bed, and he's all sprawled out on here.
He's got to be diagonal.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's funny. We should tell everybody a little bit about this Team Lodge trailer, because Eastman's has this Team Lodge trailer. It's super cool. It's they were able to pull it up here to the Four Horse and park it, and Fonzie tolerates that, I suppose, and but this thing is really slick. It actually sets down onto the ground. I know it's heavy, but it's super well insulated. It's heavy. And it sits down, and like the wind was gusting last night at 30 miles an hour or so. It was bad, and these guys sleeping in here didn't even hear it. So this thing's pretty slick.
Yeah, this morning he said, "How about that wind last night?" I'm like, it was windy last night.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. I mean,
it's crazy
because of the ground stability, and then it's spray foam insulated, and they just overbuild these things to be bomb proof. I mean, the company's out of Watertown, South Dakota. And so they're used to dealing with some elements over there, of course. And, you can have them built as we have as kind of a hunting shack. They can also convert it into an ice house if you want to. We didn't have ours with the ice house ports in here, but usually that's how they build them if you want, or that's an option. Obviously, this drops down, and we can put the side-by-side, four-wheelers, whatever in here. We can put two I think 2 4-wheelers once the beds are folded up, or one side-by-side, or UTV as some people call them. Yeah, it's pretty universal. It's pretty awesome. It's heated. It's got AC.
It's got a bathroom.
It's got a bathroom. It's got solar panels on top. It's got USB outlets, standard outlets. I mean, we could go on and on. It's got a refrigerator, microwave.
Yeah, so like a kitchen. I mean, it's loaded. Like, you could take this thing and spend weeks out in the woods hunting elk or whatever. And if you guys remember, a couple years ago at the Hunt Expo, we actually recorded a couple of podcasts sitting right here, and it was cool. I got some good pictures of that.
Yeah, and they're good dudes too. Like, this is our only shelter from them that we have so far. We keep talking about getting even a smaller one that's more lighter weight or something to tow behind a lighter vehicle. But they're great people, great guys to work with, and it's a cool shelter. They knew what they were doing. You could tell that they're users of the product. Yeah. They're not just guys thinking of what to build.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, I remember I was shopping for RVs this last summer, and this guy, I was on this one RV lot, and they're like, oh, this trailer is Amish built, right? And I'm thinking, I don't know if that's a good thing. Like, do the Amish get in a pickup and load up an RV and take it camping? Like, how are they? That doesn't make any sense to me.
No,
I'd rather have it built by people that actually use them. You know what I mean? And so, anyway, just a side note. So, well, Fonzy, this is a heck of an operation you got out here, man.
Thank you.
Really cool lodge, super friendly staff. All the guides have been awesome. You are like just a wealth of information, because this country is so different. The thing that struck me when I mean, just driving out here, I got south out of Sheridan there, and I'm like, man, this country is really opening up. Yeah. And it was dark, so I couldn't quite totally tell. And I've been through this area before, but not over towards Gillette and kind of where you're at. I've never been to this part of Wyoming, and so I noticed, besides the fact I almost killed myself on the freeway hitting a 190 class mule deer at, I don't know, almost midnight. I mean, inches. I think I gave this thing, I swear my bumper hit its tail as it moved, and I'm like skidding out. It was all sorts of fun and excitement, but it was just, I noticed, I got out here, and the country's wide open. It's vast. It's really complicated country too. It's not like you think that when it's wide open like this, you can just look out there and you'll pick mule deer out like left and right. It's not like that. There's so many nooks and crannies for these deer to be in. And by the way, for those of you listening, that's what we were hunting. We came out here for a mule deer hunt, and we also had some of the Eastmans hunt winners, which I want you to talk about in just a minute.
Sure.
But they were out here hunting antelope, and one of them's already tagged out, or is it 2 of them? No, just
one of them.
Yeah, just
out,
Todd. Yeah. He tagged out with a really nice buck. But anyway, it's been quite the experience for me, because again, I'm used to this high country timbered green you can't see, and now we're looking at 300-400 yard shots, and I mean longer. But we were trying to get it on camera, so I had strict instructions on that one. But which is perfect, because I'm not very good at long range. So this country is something you grew up hunting in, and I would suppose that that's kind of where your eye for these mule deer hanging in all these nooks and crannies come from.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm just so used to it. I was born and raised in Southwest Wyoming in Rock Springs, and it's similar country. It's high desert, a lot of big open stuff, but I've actually been here longer than where I grew up. So,
yeah,
this is home now, and I've spent more time here looking for mule deer, antelope, elk in this type of country than anywhere else. So this is what I'm really used to. But yeah, it's taken a long time, and learning where to look for them. It has made a big difference.
And that was so much fun too, because getting out there, it's like, okay, what I suppose what we're going to do is we're going to get to an elevated position. We're just going to start glassing and whatnot. That's not what we were doing. It was the wind was blowing, which apparently is just this permanent staple in Wyoming, I'm finding. I made a joke on the camera about not even needing a wind checker because it's about to knock you over, But these deer, they just kind of bunker down outside of that wind, right. and they hide in those washes,
right.
And just kind of sit there all day and watch and give themselves the most optimal vantage point so that they could see any trouble coming. and that's where we were finding them.
Exactly. Yeah, they'll bed with the wind at their back, just so they can utilize their sense of hearing and their sense of smell. They've got really keen senses: eyesight, sense of smell, sense of hearing. Obviously, because they've got giant radar dishes for ears, right?
Yeah.
So they have the wind at their back, so they can hear or smell threats coming from behind. But then, like you said, they'll bed to where they can utilize their keen eyesight and have such a vantage point, and they see anything coming in within their bedding area, and they've generally got a quick retreat too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's really challenging to, one, turn them up, find them, because a lot of you can't see where they're bedding oftentimes until you're right on top of it. So the style of hunting that we utilize is a lot of the ranches we're hunting are accessible with four-wheel drive vehicles, and we can get to various vantage points. There's 2-track roads and some oil-filled roads on the ranches that we hunt, so we can get to vantage points in just glass.
Yeah, and
kind of pick those drainages apart where those bucks typically bed. And we just do that over and over and over. We cover a lot of country. It seems to be, pretty efficient and very beneficial. We're pretty spoiled in that we have access to so much private land in
so
big
cool.
country. So the deer aren't pressured. We take a minimal amount of hunters every single year just because we want to be here long term, and we want to maintain a certain standard in age class and quality of bucks. So we just when we hunt in that style, it seems like we just keep them under pressured, and we just move from point to point to point, just glassing and knowing what the wind direction is, and okay, the wind's like this. Also, temperature affects that too.
Yeah.
If it's really hot and not a lot of air, you're going to find them in the shade. So they got their winter coats on. Can you imagine having your winter coat on and laying in 80-degree sunshine? It's like,
and what a difference between yesterday's temps and today's temps.
Right.
By the way, your definition of four-wheel drive accessible and mine are vastly different. Like, I would never take my truck in some of those spots you were taking us. In that we were in a Ford Expedition. And so if Ford wants to sponsor the show, hit up Brandon.
That's right. That's right.
It was a pretty good ride. That would have made a good Ford ad. But no, it really speaks to which, by the way, guys, and we could tell the story if we want, whatever, and we probably will. I did get a really nice buck thanks to Fonzy and thanks to Brandon, and my big advantage is Brandon grew up hunting this kind of stuff just not far from here. Mm-hmm. And so I had like two of the best deer spotters in the American West, I swear, helping me find these deer. Because I think you've told it on the story, or told the story on the podcast, but you grew up in North Dakota, right?
Yep. I was born in southwest North Dakota, which, as the crow flies, is not terribly far from here.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, the country looks very similar because it's not very far from here. And so, my whole life hunting mule deer with my dad and the rest of my family, and you just get used to a certain style of hunting, which is very similar to what is done here. And it is anything that you grew up doing is kind of your default, right? Even we all love hunting everything, and everywhere, but there's just something about this stretch of country to me that I kind of breathe a sigh of relief. Yeah, like I'm home. I know what to do here. So.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and it was impressive because I always it's so funny back home. I'm like the number one deer spotter, right? Like I'm always the first one to spot deer, and I came with you guys and I felt like a rookie. And that you guys are, deer over there, deer over there. I'm like, where? What are you talking about? There's no deer. That's sagebrush. But I think that the other thing that made this hunt super cool is I've always wanted to hunt like private access like this. I've never been able to do that. So that was a real treat for me. And two, all three of us kind of grew up with this mule deer. How do you say that? Mule deer was the main thing we hunted as kids,
right.
And so it's like seated in our souls or something, and so we're all just real passionate about them. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, man, it's been one of the funnest hunts I've done in a long time. So, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
I lost my train of thought.
For me, it's kind of another day at the job, but I love what I get to do. I'm like, that's my job. How lucky am I, right?
I know.
That and mule deer are my favorite thing to hunt. There's something, to me, there's there's nothing more majestic than a mature mule deer buck in his environment.
Nothing says the American West like a mule deer.
Yeah, in fact, you and I, we just talked about that yesterday.
Yeah.
I think we were watching a mule deer, watching a buck, and I said something. I think you were outside of the vehicle, and he and I were still inside the vehicle. I said, "Man, I love mule deer. There's just nothing like them. Like I said, I love hunting everything, like we all do. But my number one, my default, the thing I cut my teeth on, the thing I still love. There's just nothing like seeing a mature mule deer and doing what he does. And I don't know. It's just, like I said, it feels like home to me.
Absolutely.
Oh, it absolutely does. And you know what I love greatly about mule deer too, and I don't know if there's a lot of discussions out there about this, but regionally specific mule deer vary quite a bit more than, like, when you hunt elk in Utah versus Montana versus Wyoming versus Idaho, whatever. There's a lot of similarities that are just hard to disregard. Like, they're pretty much the same, right? They pattern a little different, maybe. Like, I know down in Arizona, they're pretty hard to turn around with a bugle in the morning during that archery hunt or whatever, versus where I'm at, you actually can turn them around if they're on their way to their bedding area. There's things like that. But mule deer, so I've hunted mule deer in Utah, Washington, Idaho, Montana, and now Wyoming. Wyoming, this is like my favorite spot to hunt mule deer, by the way. But
mine too.
and I'm just, there's nuances. They look a little different. They react a little different. And mule deer just have this way. Sometimes they're super cagey. Sometimes they're not cagey enough.
Right.
And that's what gets them into trouble a lot of the time. And the mule deer at home right now, where I've been hunting with my daughter, they are not cagey enough. They're giving us way too many opportunities. And these deer here won't do that, which is interesting because these deer are less pressured than the ones at home. Because at home, these are public land bucks we're hunting, and so the thing that I'm a little bit bummed about is I dropped the deer off. He's going to the taxidermist, so I'm not going to get that skull. But I wanted to compare the eyeball size to the high country, Northwest Montana mule deer skull size, because they're bigger out here. These eyeballs are bigger. And I remember I had Dr. Valerius Geist on, who's like the mule deer expert. He wrote the book Mule Deer. Right. And he was telling me that these prairie bucks out here, they have these bigger eyes because of this bigger country that they have to watch more. Where the mule deer where I live are more dependent on their nose and their ears because it's so thick and brushy, that it's like this adaptation. And so anyway, it's just interesting stuff. I just love seeing the different nuances. Do you guys notice that as you hunt different areas with whether it's mule deer or another species? Because you're hunting all over the place, Brandon.
Yeah, one of the states that I've noticed the biggest difference is in Colorado, and there was a thought for a long time that maybe that was a different subspecies of mule deer because
really.
Their bodies are bigger, their tails are wider, their tails are longer, their skulls are wider. Like, for example, in Ike Eastman's office, for the longest time, he had 2 gyros hanging up on each side of his desk behind. So if you walked into his office, talked to him, big old buck right there, big old buck right there. One was from southwest Wyoming, and one was from southern Colorado. So basically a state length difference.
Yeah.
In geography, and it was so, and they're both giant antlered bucks, but the skull size was unbelievably different. Like you could just, a quick glance, and you could tell which one was a Colorado buck.
And you said they were like same age, roughly?
Yep, roughly same age class, mature bucks. And I'm not talking a little bit different. You look at them, and that's just one example of many that we've seen. But you look at the Colorado mule deer, for some reason, I don't know, I haven't hunted enough down there to know if that's state, boundary wide, but their deer there just seem to be bigger class of deer. Now, Jim Heffelfinger and some people he's associated with set out to prove how many subspecies of mule deer there actually are, and he said it actually got more complicated than you think. You think doing genetic tests would be cut and dry. He said it wasn't cut and dry, but one thing they did find, at least up to that point, when I talked to him a few years ago about it, that, because him and I had talked about this over the years, like that Colorado's got to be a different subspecies. I can't wait till his genetic study's done because it's going to prove it once and for all. And he said, actually, I hate to burst your bubble, but they're not. Genetically, from what they could tell anyway.
They're genetically
They're just
the same.
something different in either what they're eating or years and years of adaptations, like you said, on the land. I don't know. But one thing that's also interesting to note about that is I used to write the Colorado members research section, the MRS, in our magazine that we produce every year, or every other month. But that section we produce every year.
The MRS comes out once for Colorado once a year.
And it used to take me 160 hours of research every year to write that in about a month's time. And so really a month's worth of work that I would do after hours outside of the office because I'm busy doing other things. And through that research, if you looked at the top Boone and Crockett entries from the Boone and Crockett Club's record book, and you looked at how many Colorado had, which is numero uno state for entries. At least I haven't looked at it recently, but I doubt states have caught up this quickly. It took the next 3 states' records together combined to add up to how many Colorado had.
Really?
Wow.
And so it's been known as like a mecca for mule deer, but it just makes you wonder. They're just a bigger animal. Their antlers are bigger. Their skulls are bigger. Their bodies tend to be bigger, generally speaking.
Wonder what I should get Heffelfinger back on the show and talk. Ask him what he thinks about what leads to that.
Yeah.
Because there's other things too, like the muleys here are grayer than they are at home, and they're I would say they're a bit bigger body-wise, and I know that they're a little bit bigger in like Colorado and Utah, and I wonder if it has something to do with the elevation or something like that. Because where I'm hunting mule deer at home, northwest Montana, in those areas, you know that you're maxing out at like 6,500 feet elevation-wise. Unless you get it up into like the cabinets, those get quite a bit taller. But I'm talking about just generally speaking, up in that country, it's not super high country. Where here, what are we? We're like at 4,500 feet here just in camp. Right. And so I'm wondering if that contributes anything to the size, or maybe the winters or the mountains or something.
And you wonder, because I hunt in the famous Region G in Wyoming a lot, and the first time I went in there, I was told by Scott Reekers, because he grew up hunting that country, because him and Fonzy are from the same hometown actually, and he said the big mature bucks are almost the size of a cow elk. I'm like, get out of here! I'm from North Dakota. I know what a big deer is like. I mean, the big northern bodied animals. And he shot a really nice buck one year. My son was a videographer, and him and I were up there chasing mule deer, and he shot a dandy buck, and it was a huge 3-point actually, and just a huge buck. And we got up to it, and the antlers, like if you look at the pictures of him with his buck, you wonder, why would you pass that? We passed him for 2 or 3 days. Like, it's just a 3-point. He looks okay, but Well, then when he finally decided to shoot him after getting a better look at him, and we get up to that deer, and my jaw hit the ground. It looked like a cow elk with mule deer antlers. And so those antlers were actually deceivingly bigger than what they looked on the body of that deer, just because the body is so big up there. It's crazy how big those deer are.
Yeah.
That's another interesting thing. Like today when we dropped that buck off at the butcher, and they, for those of you listening, if you go to a butcher, they have those, racks. They clip the back leg, and they, have this track that the whole thing kind of slides into the freezer on or whatever. Well, in front of my buck was a raghorn bull elk that had been, they got the hide off, and it's ready to go. It's ready to cut, basically. And when they put my buck up against that bull elk, it would the difference between the size would be substantially more where I live. It would be a substantial difference, where this was almost like, you could tell, obviously, one was an elk, one was a mule deer, right? But it wasn't like this super noticeable thing. And so the body size is just monstrous. I'm excited to see how much meat we get off of that sucker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it should yield probably a little over 100 pounds of meat, or close to. Yeah, I'll bet. That's pretty typical for the deer that come from our country here. Yeah, and you're doing pretty well in northwest Montana on like the public land whitetail, for example. You're doing pretty well if you get 50-60 pounds off of those bucks up there on a mature buck.
Right. So anyway, it's great stuff, man. I love kind of diving into all that. Sometimes I feel like you've got like this biologist background, but for me, I'm just this hillbilly that observes and wants to have these opinions that are not backed by anything scientific other than I'm no scientist, but I think this.
Well,
right?
but I think the passion behind a lot of, all of our career choices is that we are that hillbilly that just loves hunting mule deer.
Yeah,
That's what
I think so
that's what
too.
drove me into the degree that I got, and what's driven Fonzy into what he does for a living, and you doing a podcast like this and everything, and it's that where it all started. None of us. I mean, I wasn't born with a biology degree, and to be truthful, I was not. In my game and fish department days and all that, I was not a big game biologist. Like I don't have a master's degree in it or anything, but I from the benefit of all the conversations you have in an agency, you just glean a lot more than you would in day-to-day life. Right. Yeah. And speaking of agency stuff, before I start talking too much, this guy needs to talk about his new role in the state of Wyoming.
I know we do need to talk about that, Mr. Commissioner, sir.
Yes.
Tell us how this all came about.
So, for those of you that don't know, I was recently appointed by the governor of Wyoming to serve on the Wyoming Game and Fish Commission. I didn't realize it at the time that I even submitted my application or for a little while afterwards, but it is the highest appointment that the governor can make. I think.
I didn't know that.
I didn't
really?
know that either.
I think I caught him in a weak moment, but whatever. So,
take it.
Summer before last, a friend of mine reached out to me, and we were having just a conversation in that, and he said, "Have you ever thought about serving on the Game and Fish Commission?" I was like, "What'd I do to you? I thought we were friends, right?" And I was like, "Well, no, not really." He said, "Well, the district that you live in, which is District 6, which comprises 3 counties here in northeast Wyoming, which is Crook, Weston, and Niobrara counties." He said the district that you represent is up for a new term or a new commissioner, the one that's currently serving. His term is soon going to be expiring, and the county that you live in will get that nod. I was like, interesting. I wonder if being a licensed outfitter would disqualify me. He's like, I don't know. So I did a little bit of research and contacted some other people, and near as I could tell, no, it didn't disqualify me. So I submitted an application, and I did a little campaigning too. I reached out to members of the legislature that represent the district that I live in, and asked, what their thoughts were on it, but also if they would be interested, maybe mention my name to the governor if they so chose to do that. So apparently they did, and a few other people that kind of have some influence reached out to the governor as well and kind of gave me the nod. And I was pretty surprised to see that I did get nominated by him, and the Senate approved me. So apparently they don't know, but yeah.
Well, no, I think that you and I were talking, I don't know, Friday or Saturday, about one of the reasons why I like getting outfitters and guides on the show is because you have this vast amount of experience in very short amounts of time.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you've been doing this for 27 years, and so when I get an outfitter or a guide on the show, there's this deeper sense of credibility because in one season you're getting more experience as a hunter and as an outdoorsman and as, dare I say, a wildlife manager in one season than most people get in like 10 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think that's one of the things that would be valuable as a commissioner is having, what it was like hunting mule deer 27 years ago here on a deep level versus 15 years ago versus 10 years ago. And so it doesn't surprise me at the slightest that the governor and the Senate gave you the nod for this role, because I think you're exactly what commissions were designed to have on as commission members. Sure. If that makes sense.
No, absolutely it does. And I was kind of surprised to find out that being a licensed outfitter doesn't disqualify me. So a previous commissioner from a neighboring district, Peter Doobie, he was a licensed outfitter, but he wasn't actively outfitting at the time that he served on the commission. As far as I know, I'm given to understand that I'm the only licensed active outfitter to ever serve on the Wyoming Game and Fish Commission. So pretty unique in that regard. And the current dynamic of the commission is we have an attorney, we have a circuit court judge, we have a business owner, actually two business owners, entrepreneurs, a school principal, a private school principal, and a guy that works for the University of Wyoming and manages a lot of things there at the university for trustees and stuff, and then myself. So it's a really diverse makeup and body of the commission. So I think that brings a really unique perspective from all of us. But you're right. I think not necessarily to toot my own horn, but my experience every day, I think, lends a pretty unique perspective to the body of the commission, in that I can kind of contribute to and confirm and add to what the department is seeing and what they're bringing forth to the body of the commission, to confirm. But also as a member of the commission, I have a relationship with other outfitters as well. And so I can reach out to them and say, hey, what are you guys seeing every day? Because you're right. I'm here for, every single day of the season, whereas somebody else that is passionate about hunting but also has a 9 to 5, they can only make it the weekends, or they can only take a few days off during the week to go out in the field and hunt. And I know people are very, very dedicated and committed to this craft and this trade and sport, if you will say, that they commit and dedicate a lot of time. There's a lot of scouting and stuff that goes into it as well. But me working for this ranch and being on the ranch every single day of the year, also, as an outfitter, going out and see what's in the field, I think I do have, my thumb on kind of the pulse of a lot of that.
It's a deeper understanding.
Right.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, I think it helps, present to the department and to the public a well-rounded commission too, because you don't want just a monoculture of one type of industry represented, or one type of sportsman or whatever.
Right.
Having all seats filled with different walks of life,
right,
I think is paramount. We've been talking a lot about that this week, not just in Game and Fish Commission discussions, but also just in life in general. I mean, we live in a crazy culture right now,
right,
where people are just intolerant of any other viewpoint but their own, and that's a recipe for disaster in a society. We're seeing that, right?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mean you have to agree with everybody that you're talking to, but let's have a civil discord, and discussion,
right,
so that we can probably learn from each other, God forbid,
right.
And it's a really good way to bridge some of those gaps, because the thing is in Wyoming and I think Montana and some of these western states, we're fortunate in the sense that we are all part of this hunting culture, and so our commissions are kind of made up of people that have that value set as kind of a sportsman, where you contrast that with commissions like in the state of Washington, and they're dealing with the shit show that ensues over there,
right, from
people that are wildlife commissioners because they are also the vice president of operations for PETA in the Seattle branch or whatever. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but
probably not too much.
I'm not. It's not that much of an exaggeration.
No.
You have active anti-hunting folks on the commission for Washington State. And I think that that's truly inappropriate, because that's not discourse. No. Those are people with completely different and dysfunctional value sets trying to make decisions on wildlife management when the wildlife management system is through hunting.
Right.
And so it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add up to me. And it is like my mission in life to prevent that from happening to the states that still have some sanity on that side of the table, which is Idaho, Montana, Utah, Wyoming, Colorado, and other states where, our cultural value set is wildlife management through hunting, because we know that it works. We know the North American model of wildlife conservation works. We know that hunting managing these species through hunting is the healthiest way to have a future in both hunting and just having wildlife populations.
Right.
And so that's my my spilling diatribe, whatever you want to call it. But
No, I think you're right. It's you've got to have an open mind, and I don't say it necessarily because I'm a member of this body of this commission, but it's been my experience at these commission meetings and in conversations with fellow commissioners that it seems like we are very open-minded and objective and want to hear all of these various perspectives. Right? We want to hear from the department, because they're the people that are charged with the management of the resources. And they're very committed and dedicated and passionate about what they do. And it's fun to hear them tell about their job because they really, truly care. But also, they are limited with resources in regards to funding and time. But then you see them work with partners. The Wyoming Game and Fish Department has a really good track record of working with landowners and partnering with them. And when you see landowners that are passionate about the resources, it's really fun that they work together and they work on these projects and see things come to fruition and habitats improved. And you see more wildlife on the landscape as a resort, and they're working to improve fisheries and waterways that go through there, and that benefits everybody, right?
It does. Yep.
You see firsthand the things that are happening on the private land, but eventually that spills over onto the public land as well and benefits everybody. So, and then you see the NGOs that are involved, and all of it's a giant working machine. And when you see these people knock these barriers down and put aside their differences and work together to collaborate on these things and find the common ground to work on and get over themselves and put egos aside.
Boom.
Man, it's so many good things happen, and it's really fun to be a witness of that.
I don't know if it could be said any better.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
I just
put a period at that, right?
Yeah, just put a period. I mean, the getting over yourself is a big one.
It is.
We talked about that the other day. That I think the biggest barrier for most hunters' success in the field is their own ego.
Right.
They just like I could have came out here and been like, oh well, I'm a guide in Utah and I do a hunting podcast. I don't need to listen to you guys. I would have walked home empty-handed. I mean that. I couldn't have got that caliber of mule deer out here without both of you guys helping me kind of get out there and spot these deer, and you guys just know how to hunt this country. I don't know what I'm doing out here. And it's because, and I'm not saying I'm the perfect example of getting rid of your ego, but I think that is a critical part for any hunter or outdoorsman to evolve, whether they're on the Wildlife Commission board or if they're on you were on the Mule Deer Foundation, for what, 2 years and then 10 years as a volunteer with the Mule Deer Foundation, and those things that help us grow as humans and become better no matter what we're doing. It all boils down to, are we going to let our ego get out of the way so that we can walk through that door and learn? Like I learned a ton from you guys the last few days, by the way.
Well, we talked about how there's nothing like spending time at hunting camp to really get to know somebody. And one thing that I did not know about you until this trip was your hunger for information. Even if you already know the subject matter, I've noticed that you just dig in and you ask questions and there's no ego and you want to know more. I mean, you've been hunting your whole life. You've been hunting your whole life. I've been hunting my whole life. And you acted like we were the experts and you were just some new hunter because you were like hungry for that information. And you don't see that very often. I really appreciate that.
I am hungry for it. But I thought you were going to say what surprised you the most was how stunningly handsome I am.
Well, I already knew that.
Oh, you did? That's right. I did text you some pictures.
Whoa.
Fonzy cannot be involved in this conversation as a highfalutin commissioner.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, Fonzy, what during your time as a commissioner, what are like one or maybe two things that you really want to achieve or see happen as a result of you being a commissioner? Do you have something in mind?
I do. Initially when my friend invited me to, challenged me to, or I guess invited is a proper word, to, maybe seek serving on the commission. I knew that was going to happen. For those of you that are audio only, our glorious banner just came down.
Our high-tech duct tape we got hanging up there.
I've been openly critical of the Wyoming Game and Fish Department as an outfitter, as a hunter, as a resident, and whatever else, because I had a very myopic, limited view of actually what it consists of. So I thought, I'll set about to change this and change that and whatever else. But I also, I've learned the hard way, but I've learned that to be a little more open-minded about things, to gather more and more information before rendering a decision. So I came into as a commissioner with opened eyes and hopefully a closed mouth, so I can and open ears, so I can observe and take in more information. And I've been pleasantly surprised that the department is pretty efficient. They do a very good job with pretty limited resources. Now, they are a bureaucracy, right? And all the things that come with that are in the way. But I'm pleasantly surprised with how good the department is doing. My very first commission meeting that I attended was in March of this year, and they came forth, the CFO came forth with the preliminary budget of fiscal year 2026. And the PowerPoint presentation, threw up this number of like $106 million. Whoa.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
And then they had a pie chart and a breakdown of, where this money comes from, the revenue. And 61% of the revenue is from license sales. Is that interesting? I wonder what the makeup consists of, and I know I'm kind of sidetracked, but this will all come full circle. I wonder what the breakdown of license sales is versus resident versus non-resident. And so when I started to see those numbers for fiscal year 2023, they got me some information that I requested, and 86% of the revenue from license sales in the state of Wyoming for fiscal year 2023 came from non-residents.
Did you say 83%?
86%.
86%.
Wow.
Fiscal year 2023. So you think about 60, I think it was $59 million. My math could be a little bit off here, but $59 million, 86% of that is from non-residents.
Wow.
Purchasing licenses to come into Wyoming to recreate. Hunting licenses, fishing licenses, conservation stamps, preference points, right? And so, wow, thank you, non-residents, for wanting to. You
might get tar and feathered for saying that.
I know, but that's okay, because I know that residents of Wyoming, we are a very spoiled lot.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful to the non-resident that wants to come experience all that Wyoming has.
Yeah.
It's a very unique, special place. I try not to take that for granted. So I take all of that information into consideration. I've been serving on the commission now for a little over 7 months. And so when I see things, I have access to more and more information, and none of it's undisclosed or not accessible by anybody else. But I'm getting to see a greater picture here. And so I think, really, as a commissioner, I don't see anything that I need to drastically change in the department or the state. One thing that I would like to see happen more is to do away with polarization. Because some of the topics that we've discussed thus far at our commission meetings, and we've had some big things. We've done season setting meeting in April. That's always a big one. Because there's so much discussion that takes place with licenses, how many we're going to issue, season dates, and quotas and things like that. And there's a lot of things that we have to discuss there between the department, public comment, outfitters, landowners, non-residents are there weighing in participating in this conversation. So we take all this information in and make a decision based upon that. And then in July at our commission meeting, there was a proposal to change the qualifying criteria for landowner licenses in Wyoming. That was a giant discussion, and there was a lot of input prior to that meeting from landowners, both resident and non-resident, but also, non-landowner sportsmen. And it was interesting. I was attending some meetings that the Casper region was hosting for landowners, just saying, hey, what do you guys, we recognize that you guys contribute all of this habitat for this wildlife to exist on. We don't want to overlook that. We want you guys to know that we appreciate that you're great stewards of the land.
Mm-hmm.
How can we give you a greater seat at the table, or to incentivize it? And it was interesting that one of the landowners present asked, he's like, where does this come from? Why these proposed changes? What was wrong with the system beforehand, right? Mm-hmm. Why do we need to change it?
I often wonder stuff like that too, quite a bit.
Right. So I thought, that's an interesting question. I'm glad you asked that. Why? So I was kind of pondering it for a while, and I don't know if it was necessarily an impression I received, or just the thought came to me, or just I did some math and this is how it added up. I thought, someone somewhere benefits from landowners and non-landowners being at odds with one another. Because if you think about those two factions coming together, what a huge voice they will have, right?
Yeah.
And to affect a lot of positive change. Right now, the things that are kind of on the table for discussion, not only in Wyoming, but Montana, Idaho, potentially Oregon and Washington, and eventually maybe Utah, are grizzly bear delisting.
Yep.
Right? And so if we don't have landowners and non-landowners, if they're not communicating with one another about these landowner issues and licenses and whatever else, do you think they're going to come together and have, conversations about grizzly bear delisting? No, they're at odds with one another.
The polarization you were talking about, are you talking about the polarization within the commission, or the polarization as a state as a whole of resident hunters?
And non-resident hunters.
And non-resident, yeah.
I say hunters in general, not necessarily in the commission, because I think we're a very cohesive bunch. And I think even within the department, I think they're very cohesive. And I think all of the conversations that take place. But I think the polarization that happens on social media, right?
Yeah.
Think about like in archery hunters. I've seen this, right? Either you're a trad hunter or you're not, right? Or you're a compound bow user or a crossbow, right? And all of these people argue amongst themselves, oh, you're not an archery hunter. Guess what? If you look at the definitions and regulation of the Wyoming Game and Fish, all three of you are considered archery hunters.
Yeah.
Why the divide?
I'd like to welcome Mystery Ranch as a sponsor to the Western Huntsman. This is a great product. Specifically, we're going to talk about the Mysterium line. Those packs include the Sawtooth 45, the Sawtooth 65, the Beartooth 85, and the Marshall 105, depending on what you're doing with the pack. If you from day pack to backcountry, plenty of space. I like what they wrote on the website. Between the disciplines of calculated preparation and in-the-moment focus, an intangible alchemy exists. We call it Mysterium. It is our most ambitious, tech-rich line of Mystery Ranch hunting packs, constructed for the most methodical hunters. I'd agree with that. It's a great pack, guys. I really like the ventilation system. When you put it on, it's nice and tight, but you're still breathing a little bit less of that buildup between the pack and your back when you're sweating and out there packing through the mountains and whatnot. It's a super functional pack, very comfortable. Very good at carrying loads. I've been using it all spring between bear and just like I do a lot of rucking to keep in shape, and it has done a phenomenal job. I've got a lot of top-of-the-line packs out there, and I've always kind of geeked out with packs, but I really do like the weight distribution and the way that it allows you multiple options as to where you're going to either carry a water bladder or one of those Contigo containers or whatever you're going to use. Really impressed. I love the ease of how everything functions on it too. You don't need to watch a bunch of videos to figure out how to undo everything to pack a bunch of meat out. That's really important for a guy like me, I promise. I'm not super smart. So the simplicity, the comfort, the load distribution, it all makes for a wonderful backcountry hunting pack. If you are in the market, check it out at mysteryranch.com/mysterium.
Because they decide.
That's a good point, Fonzy, too, because there's nothing wrong with friendly rivalry, right?
No.
Like, I got a buddy. Actually, he was a customer that became a buddy. His name's Mike. Great dude. He hand makes trad bows.
Sure.
These I don't know how he's been promising me for like 7 years he's going to make me one, and I told him I'll pay full price, man, and he still hasn't made me one. So I got to ruffle his feathers a little bit, but I use a compound. I'm a Matthews lift guy, right?
Sure.
And that's my brand. That's what I like to shoot, and really enjoy that bow, and I think it's better than other bows. Does that mean I hate a guy that uses a Hoyt or a Prime? No, I don't. I just personally prefer that. But the fun rivalry between me and Mike, the trad bow maker, you know, I remember I'd shot this elk and I sent him this picture, and my bow was kind of against it or whatever. And he's like, next time be a real man and use a trad bow.
Sure.
That is fun. That
Right.
is a fun rivalry. But things
Absolutely.
have gotten so ugly because Facebook allows you to say stuff without getting a black eye over it.
Right.
And I think that's why. I think that brings up bigger issues even. I mean, I
Absolutely.
think that's why we have, you know, crazed fanatics shooting Charlie Kirk, because they feel like they're not important enough and they're not getting heard, and they could say what they want on Facebook or something, and it just like makes people angrier, and because there's no retort, there's no finalization to some argument on Facebook. You can keep that going for the rest of your life.
Right.
You know, and that's why, like, I'm in the habit, I just post and ghost anymore. I don't even look at the comments anymore.
Sure.
For the most part, because stuff gets so ugly. It's so
Right.
and it's so unnecessary, and it simmers for a long time, and then it gets to a boiling point where we start getting like violent with each other.
Right.
And so that's I think that's what's happened in society, and we've just gotten to the point where we're so comfortable with everything else. We need to have these tribes that we start, you know, latching onto. Well, I like Uber Eats. Oh yeah. Well, I like, what's the other one called? There's another one.
I don't know.
Come on.
DoorDash.
No,
Yeah,
DoorDash.
DoorDash.
Yeah.
There you
So
go.
none of us live, folks. None of us live in a big city. We don't even. I don't think any of us have those. But you know, it's stupid things like that we feel we have to connect ourselves to, and all of a sudden we're bitter enemies over it, and
Right.
that's where that polarization begins. And the word that you used earlier, Brandon, I really like that word. Now I'm drawing a blank on it because that's what I do when I'm recording. Just having conversations to achieve something.
Sure.
Maybe I can just define the word instead of whatever I'm going for there. But that's what's happened.
Right.
And so I'm glad to hear you say that, because people are first of all, they're afraid of change, right?
Yeah.
And so as a commissioner, I think it makes sense to come in and be like, you know what? I'm a freshly appointed commissioner. I'm going to fix this, and I'm going to change that, and everything's going to be great, and everybody's going to love it. And then you realize that there's a lot of different value sets and a lot of different interests and a lot of different opinions and
Sure.
and scientific data that doesn't align maybe. And so I like the sound of somebody wanting to come in and just do what they can to make it better without coming in with this agenda to change everything.
Sure.
And
that
coming
makes
in
sense.
asking questions and wanting to learn yourself. you
Sure.
know, rather
Right.
than
Yeah.
I think we're all guilty of that as people, that we just come in guns and blazing on any topic without first asking the question, has this already been discussed?
Yeah.
Right.
Have you already figured this out? Because I'm sure
Right.
I'm not the first one with this idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. Just putting aside that ego and just
Yeah.
being humble and willing to learn. Because I know I try to approach every day when I wake up. It's like, you know, I'm going to encounter people today that I can learn something from. They can teach me something that I don't already know. And, you know, so if I want someone to value my opinion, my perspective, my experience, I've got to be willing to show them that, because they have experience that is valuable too. And so if we are willing to listen and learn, and everybody's input matters, right? Put
Yeah.
aside our differences. I've been using I didn't come up with it, but I use it, a funny saying that, you know, my wife and I don't necessarily agree on what or where we're going to eat for dinner, right?
Yeah.
Does that mean we don't eat? No, that'd be stupid.
Does it
right?
mean you get divorced?
No, right. Usually we'll have a conversation or discussion, and I'll come to my senses and say, yes, dear, let's go eat where you want to eat.
You're a smart man. That's why you've been married so long.
Right. But, you know, the things that we bicker over are so petty. And don't matter. Yeah. If we are willing to sit down and have a conversation, disarm ourselves, we'll find out that we have far more in common than we don't, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, you don't all three hunt with the same style of archery equipment, but you're archery hunters. At the end of the day, you're hunters.
Yeah.
You're passionate about the same thing, right? Maybe in different ways, but you care about the wildlife that's on the landscape. You care about the habitat, and you want to continue to perpetuate that for somebody else because somebody cared about it before you enough to make sure it was here for you to enjoy. And so if we look at it, it's not about me. It's about this bigger picture and somebody else getting to have the experiences that I did. I think we care about it in a different way, in a way that really matters.
Well, obviously I'm proud to call you a friend, but I'm really proud that you're a commissioner because I think commissions need more people like you across the board. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that pans out, and I think Wyoming's going to really benefit. And I have very little stake in Wyoming. I love coming down here to hunt, and that's my only stake in it. And Wyoming's a beautiful place, and you're right, it is a very unique place.
Right.
I almost moved to Pinedale, Wyoming, and then I found out what their winters look like. Nope, wasn't going to happen. Brandon, do we need to change that battery?
Yeah, we do.
Let's pause for just a minute.
Okay.
Hang on, folks. Okay, we're back, folks. I don't even think we'll have to edit that part out. So we were just wrapping up with talking with Fonzy about his future as a commissioner here in the state of Wyoming, and this really cool, fun mule deer hunt we've been on, which I kind of want to just touch on the story real quick. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Are you
absolutely.
guys cool with that? Because
Yeah.
So what we were doing, guys, we're cruising around, we're covering country, we're glassing, we're looking for those little bench areas where they're getting out of the wind, and it was really exciting because it would get real quiet for a while. And we're seeing nothing. Maybe these giant rabbits you guys have out here, in the prairie, and all of a sudden, boom, there'd be a mule deer. And so we get all excited. Usually end up being a doe. But then Fonzy spots this giant sucker down in this wash, kind of just staring at us.
Yep.
And, we determined, what did we do? We kind of pulled around and determined there was two of them, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And one's this 5-point, and one's this, what was he, a 3x4?
3x4, yeah.
But he was wider than the 5.
Right.
But either way, they were both I would have been happy as all get out with either one of those. And we kind of make a play on that big one. We move in and got to about 150 yards or so.
Right.
And right as I'm getting just set with that rifle, and I'm putting it in my shoulder and getting ready to get it would have been such an easy shot.
Right.
Man, they just suddenly bolted on us.
Yeah.
And we followed them up we watched them, and Brandon's getting this really good footage of them going over the crest there. One took a pee break for a minute and a half straight. He's got a bladder worse than mine.
Yeah.
And bounds off over the hill, and we try to drive around. And this is what I was talking about with knowing the country. I usually have a pretty good sense of direction. I was lost in the sauce out there. He's like, oh, no, they're on that hill over there. I'm like, how in the world would you know? We just drove what felt like an S, and all of a sudden you found those deer again. And they were just too far away, and it was getting dark. Mm-hmm. So we kind of put them to bed. And then we went up this morning, back up into that area we lost them. And we're glassing all over. Found that little 3-point, a different little buck. And we stop kind of on this, kind of the saddle where these two hills are coming together. And I'm in the back of the truck peeing, because I pee every 5 minutes, especially when I'm drinking coffee like that.
Yeah.
And I'm glassing behind where that 3-point was, thinking, man, he's got to have a buddy or something down there. Maybe because I was kind of losing hope that we were going to find those big ones again. Mm-hmm. And I come back over to the truck, and you'd found him. Fonzie had found him again. And you guys just have these crazy good eyes for these deer out here. It's incredible because they blend in so well in the sage. I forgot about that. I remember growing up in Utah looking for mule deer, and I got real used to finding them in the sagebrush, Mm-hmm. But they just disappear in this stuff. And so, what were they, 600 yards when we first saw them?
Yeah, somewhere between 500 and 600 I ranged them. Yeah, I don't remember exactly the same range, but yeah, just...
Yeah.
Sticking out like a sore thumb.
And these guys were telling me too, guys, for those of you listening, the way that these bucks bed down for the day, they're not rookies at this. They survive. They have to do this for a living.
Right.
And they're placing themselves at this spot where they have either thermals or wind at their advantage, so they can smell stuff approaching, but they can also see for miles, almost 360 degrees.
Right.
But they'll sit just over this bluff, so they've got that blocker of the wind, and they could see up on the basin in front of them, and just, I mean, a clear view. So you sneeze wrong, and you're busted by these things.
Sure, right.
Which is what I was saying about the mule deer back home where I'm at. They're not that cagey, man. You could darn near walk up and smack one right on the rear end. And they're just not as and I'm exaggerating. Now, people in Northwest Montana, I'm going to get some nasty emails. No, they are cagey. No, they are, but these are like next level cagey bucks here, which is funny because they're not even public land bucks,
right?
Sure. And so the way they're set up, they're just watching. So it's real tricky, kind of figuring out how to circle around and get in within range and get a shot off. And man, we made it happen.
Yeah. You made a heck of a shot. Fonzy was helping with the dope and getting the scope all dialed in and everything. I mean, it was dialed in already, but we then literally dialed it in for the right amount of clicks. And yeah, you lasered it, man. We got great footage of it, and it was fun. I felt like it was raining when that was all happening, the hardest rain of the day, I think.
Right.
And the temperature dropped. Like, it was almost wanting to snow, just almost.
Yeah.
And we were soaking wet. All of our hands were so cold. And I'm trying to run that camera. Of course, cameras don't like being out in the rain. That's not good for them.
They do not like
and so I've got my rain jacket. Say this is the camera. I've got it propped up over there. And then I'm like the old-time photographer, like in the Old West photos. I got the sheet over my head, and I'm looking. I'm like
he's filming Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah. And Jim's on the gun, and he's like, tell me when. I'm like, hang on a second. And I get out of there. Okay, I'm on him. Go ahead.
And because you were under there, I couldn't quite hear you, so I had to verify. Am I good to shoot this thing?
Yeah.
And I was super nervous. That's a long shot for a guy that hunts that real thick country. You know that.
Yeah.
What was the shot?
335, right?
Yep, 335.
Yep.
And man, that sucker, he went down within a few minutes. And it didn't go more than 40 or 50 yards down in the bottom.
The only
of that
reason
wash.
he went that far is because of gravity. He went down, pretty straight down into the bottom of that.
Yeah, it wasn't even a few minutes. It feels like that when you're in the moment, but if you'd have timed it, it was probably 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it really wasn't that much time.
It did seem like forever.
Yeah.
I know I cracked off another shot and totally missed him. But it's
good thing is your first one was good enough. It really didn't need to, but we didn't know. We thought it was a good hit, but in the heat of the moment, you're not 100% sure.
Yeah, I was totally relying on what you guys saw because as soon as you fire that I didn't have my silencer on.
Yeah.
And I forget how much without that silencer those rifles just rock your world.
Yeah.
And especially that I'm using the Browning X-Bolt. It was in 6.8 Western with that copper bullet. Man, you guys, it's such a great rifle.
Yeah, it's a great round.
It's
really
a great round. I am impressed with the round. It's the first actual hunt that I've taken that. Well, I took it on a bear hunt, but I didn't get any shots, so I'm kind of sold on it. It's a great round.
Yeah, I shot your gun once at the range, but I've never hunted with that particular round. But everybody I've talked to that has, they use it on elk and everything else, and it's pretty deadly. Yeah. So I'm hooked. So anyway, that's kind of how it went down, guys. This is definitely the biggest mule deer that I've ever gotten, and I've just I've killed a lot of mule deer. I've just never killed a good one. Like I killed a decent one in Washington many years ago that was probably 130-ish, 135-ish. And some really tall 3-points, some real funky monkeys over the years, but nothing total traditional Western Eastman's hunting journal kind of thought. You see that's what you think of, these big mule deer, symmetrical. I'm so excited. I can barely even keep my thoughts together in the episode here to even explain how excited I am about this buck. It's a good enough buck. It's the first buck that I am actually having shoulder mounted.
Awesome. It'll make a beautiful mount. I mean, his cape is real beautiful. He's very symmetrical. Just a quintessential, typical Western 4x4 mule deer, right?
Yeah.
Just and it's so fun to be a part of. A lot of people ask me. I've been doing this a long time, right? A lot of people ask me, why do you do it? And
the other side
scared me. I jumped when that thing fell.
They're
coming for us.
And I obviously I've already talked about how much I revere mule deer and just find them fascinating, and it's fun when I get to see other people do it. Something I noticed about you today when you walked up and got your hands on that buck and just holding him and looking at him, and you said, "Man, sorry, old man." And you showed that reverence for him, and that's part of my whys. When I get to see people respect them like that, and getting to be a part of that for me is very gratifying. I don't have to pull the trigger on them. When I can get somebody else and be a part of fulfilling their dream, that's extremely gratifying to me. I remember one instance, I guided a guy a few years ago, really neat man from Minnesota. He was scheduled to hunt the year before, and unexpectedly his son died right before his hunt. I was like, I'm sorry, man. We'll roll you to next year, no problem. And he'd got to come to Wyoming hunting on some DIY stuff his own, and hunting public land, and it's a challenge, especially if you don't live here and know the terrain and where you're hunting, things like that. It can be a challenge, and he'd killed a few bucks, some smaller, younger, forkies and things like that. But he'd booked this hunt with us and came hunting, and I found I consider a pretty neat buck. He was very mature, old deer, like 30 inches wide, 2x3. I was like, man, that's a cool buck, good mass, big KG 2x3, and he said, I'd rather hold out for a 4-point. It's like, hey man, it's your hunt. You decide. I'm just showing you deer and showing you country. That's my job. Well, after about 2.5 days, and we kind of encountered some weather, some rain, like we saw today, and found some bucks bedded, and one of them happened to be a pretty nice 4x4, about 24, 25 inches wide, and good typical 4x4, 160-inch deer. And, he saw him through the spot and scope. He's like, yeah, he got really excited and really lit up, So kind of the same deal. We put a stock on him, and I think he used one of my rifles just because it was at kind of the edge of his limitations for his rifle. And I said, you're welcome to use mine. I have a rifle that I use for long-range shooting, but also hunting, and we're able to dial it up, and he made a fabulous shot on him. Just, killed the buck.
Good for him.
Same deal. We got over there and got our hands on him, and I got to watch that man get a hold of his buck, and he cried. I saw tears run down his face. I'm like, that's my why. That's so cool to be able to be a part of that. See somebody's dreams come true and be fulfilled, and it's like, it's extremely gratifying. So,
isn't it interesting as we get older, it's emotional for me now.
Absolutely.
Like for a lot of different reasons.
Sure.
I feel bad.
Right.
And I do have a lot of reverence for the animal. These are beautiful, glorious animals.
Right.
That I'm gonna totally plagiarize that saying. These things are tough enough to breastfeed a badger. They live in some great there you go, Rod.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, they're just such magnificent animals. And I'm talking big public land, whitetail in the mountain, mule deer on these Wyoming ranches, Rocky Mountain elk screaming their heads off up and down through the timber. These are just magnificent animals. And like a part of me feels it feels for the animal. It feels for the emotion of just achieving something. My lifelong goal has been to get a 5-point mule deer buck with those little eye guards and again, this guy's not. I didn't shoot some booner, but for me, this is a trophy animal.
Sure.
And what do you think? 145, 155-ish range?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, score-wise. Again, he's not a booner. But for me, this is an animal of a life.
Right.
And gosh, I also felt terrible for his buddy that was like, sitting there 80 yards up going, hey, buddy, get up. We got to get out of here. Didn't you hear that gunfire? And he's just standing there. The whole thing is just emotional to me now that I'm older. And so, but a lot of it is just I'm thankful. And I'm I'm alive. I'm able to do this. I'm able to get through these mountains and experience these great experiences with good people like you guys sitting in front of me. And it's just it's irreplaceable.
Absolutely.
There's people that go through their whole life without experiencing something like this.
I know.
And I feel bad for them.
And I've kind of gotten in the habit when I'm out on these hunts with clients that because they're all different. Everybody comes from a different walk of life. I really enjoy the conversation and the downtime that adds to it. And that's
we solved all the world's problems.
Absolutely, twice.
Twice over.
Yeah, twice. But sometimes just to kind of pinch myself and make sure that I'm awake and absolutely appreciating the opportunity that I have and not taking it for granted, I'll ask, hey, I wonder what the poor people are doing today.
Yeah.
Because you can't. Sometimes I almost feel guilty that I get paid to do this.
Yeah.
It's such a unique experience and opportunity, and you get the things you get to see and the country you get to experience. And you know, to plagiarize, Rod saying, tough enough to breastfeed a badger, because that has a pretty literal meaning, that the people that settled this country and homesteaded, right?
Man.
How tough.
The hardships
and what did they, yeah, we're cold and we've got state-of-the-art gear that, kind of keeps us dry and warm, but we get too cold, we get back in the pickup and turn the heater up, right?
Yep.
Ooh, we're big tough guys, right? Yeah. What did they have? They had to go chop sagebrush and collect, buffalo chips to hopefully start a fire, because they didn't have a Bic lighter, right?
There's not a forest around here to go chop down a tree.
No.
Not too many of them anyway.
Right. They've got to, start a fire with very minimal tools to just maybe heat something up to get warmer. It's like, man, I'm sure glad that I'm born in the time that I'm born in, but I also get to see this thing that these people literally died to preserve. And
absolutely.
Man, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. And I'm just grateful and thankful and grateful I'm with Eastmans and get invited on an opportunity like this. So it's a lifelong dream. So I'm curious, Brandon, with, I'm always, I know about the hunt giveaway every year, what surprises me, especially coming down here and seeing kind of it in action, is the amount of hunt giveaways that Eastmans does. Yep. How do people get in on that?
Well, the Eastmans they've been doing hunt winners for 35 years, probably, roughly.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact
Long
number.
time.
We're coming up on Eastman's Hunting Journal's 40th anniversary here in a couple of years, and most of that time they've been giving away hunts to the subscriber base. And there's Eastman's Hunting Journal and Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal, and we've given away one hunt per journal per year. So one EHJ hunt winner, one EBJ hunt winner, did that for years. Well, since we've launched all these digital memberships too, we're like, well, we need to give hunts away to all these guys that are members of everything. And so now for the most part, we do 6 hunts a year, and staff like myself get to go on these hunts with the hunt winners. Ike Eastman does a lot of them, Scott Reekers, and then we have camera guys and all that stuff. Sometimes we're the camera guy, sometimes we actually have a for real camera guy, not just a mouth breather like me pushing the red button. But and we get to go on these adventures. And so like the last couple of years I haven't drawn anything for tags, but I feel like I've harvested an immense amount of animals because I've filmed most of the hunt winners the last 2 years. And it's just, so if you join as a member, we randomly pull names out of the hat, so to speak. We do it digitally, of course, with spreadsheets and all that stuff. But and we reward our members for being faithful to us by pulling their name out of a hat to go on either a deer, elk, or antelope hunt. And then it doesn't stop there. We load them up with gear from our sponsors.
Man.
I mean, there's
Holy cow.
probably close to $3,000 or more, probably more than that actually, worth of gear that we give away to each and every one of them.
It's more, man.
And so, our sponsors are a huge player in that, just thankful to all them. And we present that to them on the show. They wear it on their hunt and they get to keep it. They get to go home with it. So it's super fun. It's coming back to Fonzy's point of, keeping perspective on what you get to do for a living.
Right.
Because, any job can turn into a job, right? Where it's drudgery. Because every job has parts you don't want to do. And you get, kind of bogged down in details sometimes. And you can focus on that, which we all do, I think, when we're not careful. But one of the things that we all as a staff love the hunt winner hunts for is because it reminds us what we were like before we worked in this industry. And we were, you get a little callous on things and take things for granted. And then you see these hunt winners that show up that come from quote unquote normal walks of life, meaning they have for real jobs,
Yeah.
not what we do. And they're just blown away, that they get to, number one, be on the hunt. And then half the time they don't even know that they're getting this gear. And so we show them all this gear. And like, are you serious? I get to keep this? And they just can't believe it.
Right.
It's like a kid at Christmas. And then, you
like, it's way, like, I get a lot of free gear being a podcast host.
Yeah.
And I don't get that kind of gear package. Like, that's a good gear
and
package.
then we follow them around with the camera, and we get their
Yep.
hunt on film, which if anybody hasn't hunted on camera, it's actually a major pain in the butt.
Right.
But once it's all done and it's edited and put together, we run it on either YouTube or the Outdoor Channel or Outdoor America or whatever, all these sources that are out there now. And then you're watching, they get to go home, and then this hunt launches. We let them know, and they're watching it with their family, and they're getting text messages from, their cousins and their buddies and all that. And they're like, dude, I just saw you on TV, or I saw you on YouTube. You're a big deal, and it just, it's preserved. Their hunt is preserved.
Right.
Yeah. And most people don't get to have that done.
No, they don't, man.
It's
It's
pretty
incredible.
cool.
And it is, like, there's some added stress involved with filming.
Yeah.
Like that shot, I was stressed about that shot because I knew you were going to be, I thought you and Fonzy were going to be making fun of me for missing. And boy, what kind of hillbilly. Oh, I know. I was stressed about it. I would have my tail would have been between my legs all the way back to Montana. But no, it's so cool, man. I don't know of other big brands out there, hunting media that does that on that scale. It's a big scale. And so so just for clarification, all anybody has to do to get entered into these hunts is subscribe to the magazine or like to Elite Tag Hub or something like that.
Yeah, our really the best value is what we call our Elite membership. And that includes both magazines. It includes Tag Hub, which is our digital research tool. It includes the online learning courses like the Elk Collective and the Mule Deer course.
I'm wearing an Elk Collective t-shirt under this here vest.
Yeah, and so we have the collectives. And basically, if you join as anything that we have as a membership, which I can't even remember the value. It's something like a $500 value if you piecemealed it. Individually. But if you join as an Elite membership, you get your name entered into the hat for 6 hunts.
Yeah.
And you get all that stuff. Plus, we usually have cool stuff from either Cryptic or Eberly Stock or any of our sponsors or advertisers that we do various premiums with. Outdoor Edge knives and et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on. But it's cool. It's I remember watching these episodes before I worked at Eastmans. I've been at Eastmans now for 15 years, so it's been a minute, since before I worked here.
Yeah.
But I remember watching these shows on either the DVDs or on the Outdoor Channel, and seeing these guys presented with gear, and they get to go hunting with, one of the Eastmans or one of the staffers like us now or whatever. And I'm just like, wow, that's got to be amazing.
Yeah.
And now I get to be one of the guys presenting it. It's pretty cool.
Super cool, man.
Yeah.
The whole thing is cool. I love being a part of it in any small way that I can be, so.
Yeah.
Well, cool, guys. Any last closing thoughts you want to leave the audience with before we wrap this bad boy up?
The only thing I'd like to say is just it maybe sounds too philosophical or something, but we've talked about it a lot on the hunt. We talked about it right now on the podcast, but just as an encouragement, one of the things that you do, Jim, is you hit issues head on in your podcast, which I appreciate. And one of those issues is with our current crazy culture we're living in, before you spout off, not you, anybody.
Yeah. I'm famous for that.
Yeah. Take a breath, hear what the other person has to say, and then have a conversation. It doesn't have to be a screaming match. You don't have to walk away agreeing with a person, but you can be a human being and talk to the other person and maybe see their other side. Again, maybe doesn't mean you got to agree with it.
Yeah.
But we're all in this together. So start acting like it, just behave and be kind and just take a breath. That's the biggest thing. I think we talked about like Facebook posting, you can rant and rave forever. Part of that is because it's instant and you don't, back in the old days, you had to take the time to write a letter.
Yeah.
Or you had to pick up the phone or you had to go to that person. Right. Yep. And that takes effort. And by the time you get to that level, you're usually calmed down, and you're probably not going to send that letter, or you're going to reword it a little more humanly.
Yeah.
Well, now it's just emotional.
Right.
Super emotional.
And fire it off. It's like
Charged.
that's what we tell everybody at work. I help manage employees and stuff, and everybody has concerns, and they come to maybe to me or Ike or whoever, and either they're upset with another employee, or they're upset with one of our sponsors did something, or or whatever. There's so many issues that can happen in a workplace, and most of the time, I can think of very few exceptions to this. Most of the time, it doesn't have to be dealt with now.
Yeah.
And so my advice to my kids or to coworkers or whatever is let's take a breath, think about it, and let's talk about it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Or let's talk about it Monday if it's on a Friday or whatever. And it's amazing how much cooler heads prevail when you do that.
Just take a minute. And that's true. I've been guilty of not taking a minute.
Yeah. Oh, I think we all are guilty of that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my policy, like on social media, now is I don't say anything to anybody that I wouldn't say to their face, right? I don't, and they could be a complete stranger, and I don't care. I'm not going to say something. That does not mean that I won't be brash or aggressive.
Sure.
But if you think I wouldn't do that in person, you don't know me very well, because I will, and it's, I think that's critical, because I think just, societally, we is that a word? Societally?
Sounds like a good word to me.
We just invented it at the Western Huntsman. Hell with the Webster dictionary. It's a Western Huntsman dictionary where we make words up.
Right. You're
at
own
least
thesaurus.
I do. So, but that's part of the problem, is we all kind of hide what we truly feel as we're in a conversation with somebody, and it's not that anybody's lying to anybody, it's that they're not telling the whole truth.
Sure.
And they're afraid to upset somebody or hurt their feelings or offend them, and that's kind of sad to me. I think that it's important sometimes to offend somebody in an adult way, so that maybe they have the opportunity to think about whether it's their actions, or it doesn't necessarily have to be something where you're correcting somebody, but it's something where I can say something, and if you're offended by that, or if your feelings got hurt by that, I'm okay with that. And if you say something to me that hurts my feelings, I'm okay with that too, and hopefully I learned something from it. Mm-hmm. And it certainly has happened where I'll do something or say something, or my actions lead me to whatever result, and somebody calls me out on that BS, and I learn from it, and I want to learn from it. And I think that we just don't do that enough as a society. And I think, like you said, taking a breath before just knee-jerk reaction kind of thing, especially with other hunters on the internet, and there's this one guy on Facebook, drives me crazy. I almost want to call him out, but he can't be here to defend himself, so I'm not going to. But I his responses to things are so knee-jerk and emotional, and he is without a doubt 110% incorrect in his information. But you can't tell him that. You can't tell people like that. So, other than, unless you just want to get really frustrated and argue until you're blue in the face, you're not going to change somebody's mind on it.
Yeah, my dad used to always tell us, because I think his dad told him, and it's almost like a sort of a spin-off of a proverb in Scripture, actually, but I don't know if he is intentionally knowing that or not, but he said, when you argue with a fool, an innocent bystander can't tell the difference.
Sure.
And
I like that line.
Right.
That should be a t-shirt.
He used to tell us that as kids, because you come home from school and somebody's making fun of your favorite football team, and you just you're just mad. Yeah. And I told him, and Dad would always tell us, you argue with a fool, an innocent bystander can't tell the difference. It's like you just become like them when you're acting like that.
I love that.
Just take a breath, walk away.
Huh.
Yeah, that's kind of to echo what Brandon was saying, and I can speak to this because I have experience. There's a time and a place to react. Mm-hmm. When the house is on fire, get out.
You have literal experience with that.
Unfortunately, I do. But the house isn't on fire. In fact, there's not even a match lit. The match isn't even out of the box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why are we reacting, right? Let's just take a breath and listen. And I think if we are willing to listen to somebody else, and I don't want to live in an echo chamber, because then I'm not challenged. I want people to challenge me, right? Challenge my belief system, challenge my experience, because I'm probably I'd probably stand a really good chance of learning something.
Yeah.
And how much better is the world when we are willing to listen and learn? How much more have I gained being willing to listen to somebody else and learn and gained friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got somebody that I can stand side by side with and fight for this or fight for that or solve this problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, that's pretty sound advice that Brandon said. Maybe just take a breath. Take a breath, sleep on it, attack it tomorrow.
Put it in there.
Mostly I'm preaching.
I knew that would throw you off.
Just put it in.
No inside jokes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. For some context, we've got a guy on staff that is wicked funny.
I like this guy, and I don't even know him. Shout out to Tristan.
He's one of our video producers and camera guys, and quite possibly the funniest person I've ever met in my life. And he's only been with us right now for, not even 6 months. And he is a rare talent and just a good dude. He's a good human being, and he has got some funny videos, and that's what we were quoting.
Yeah, we're
it's
just a little inside joke.
Yeah,
I knew it would get Brandon.
Yeah, I can't think of that without laughing hysterically. But
it's funny.
but no, I was gonna say I that sounds like sound advice, not because I'm all that wise. It's because I preach it to myself. Usually I found that my harshest criticisms of other people are usually traits that I have, and I think that's pretty common. And with everybody that
I found that the people that make me the maddest are the ones that remind me the most of myself.
That's what scares me. I've got 3 daughters, so
yes.
They're probably going to marry 3 guys that are similar to me, and I'm going to hate them.
Yeah,
because you're too similar to me.
It's going to be tough, man.
Yeah.
So, no, that's great. I feel like we solved some, some problems on this episode. We gave some sound advice, told some cool hunting stories.
Yeah.
This is what a podcast episode is supposed to be.
Sure.
So
and it's kind of fun when you step back and look at things and just how things materialize and happen. How this came full circle. Me listening to your podcast episodes, and I'm thinking, this guy asks some great questions, and he's genuinely willing to learn, and I can learn stuff from listening to his podcast. Yeah, I'm a guide. I'm an outfitter. I live in Northeast Wyoming. I've got a lot of experience, but he's approaching it from a different angle as well, and so me listening to it and then creeping on you, sliding into your DMs.
You did slide into my DMs. I loved it. I'm glad you did.
I did, right? And so you invited me to be a guest on your podcast, right? And we had a great conversation. And then you said, hey, I want to introduce you to my buddy at Eastmans, Scott Reekers, right? And so you made that connection, and then come to find out Scott and I grew up in the same town. Didn't know each other. Yeah. Because there's a little difference in age, but come to find out, we grew up in the same town and know a lot of the same people. And that led Eastman's coming to Four Horse Outfitters, right? And developing that relationship and establishing it. And now you're here hunting mule deer with us, and we're having this conversation in this medium, this format that is a podcast. And I mean, it's how fun. It's fun to be a part of. And so that, I think, also just verifies that, hey, be willing to listen and learn and get to meet new people, because you never know what will come of it, right?
Yeah, I think so. I just you can never. It's never a bad thing or a negative thing to build your network of friends and associates,
because the world we live in is very small.
Yes, but the opposite is not true.
Right.
It is always a negative thing to burn a bridge with somebody that could be a friend.
Sure.
And a resource.
Right.
That's my roundabout way of me telling you that sounds like you're inviting me back here for another hunt. It's probably that elk hunt we were talking about.
I think that's exactly
on
what
Brandon's dime.
I think that's exactly what I said.
I don't think that was said.
Isn't that what was implied?
I think you implied it.
I probably did. No, that's fun, guys. I had a lot of fun with you guys. I had the most fun hunting with you guys. Whether we recorded this podcast or not, this has been just a great time for me, and I just really sincerely appreciate you guys letting me spend that time with you guys and let me learn from you for a couple days and help me get that monster mule deer. And in my mind, he's a legend, and I absolutely love him, and so I just appreciate all that. This has just been world class for me. So,
absolutely,
share your sentiments.
Yep, so you guys. You guys listening, if you're looking for an outfitter in Wyoming, this is 4-Horse Outfitter. What's the website, Fonzy?
4horseoutfitter.com.
Outfitter.com.
Yep.
Okay, cool. And obviously you can jump on Eastmans.com and sign up for the Tag Hub and the Elite membership, and you'll be entered to win. Maybe you will come out and hunt with Fonzy. They have a heck of a variety of antelope and deer and some elk.
Right.
I don't even know if I want to promote that.
Sure.
I want you to save those elk for me for when I'm high dollar enough to. So, and also before we wrap this up, I just want to thank Mystery Ranch, Loophole Optics, Secure It, Barnes Bullets, Phelps Game Calls, Silencer Central, and the one that made it happen this weekend, Browning. That Browning X-Bolt is something worth. If you guys are in the market for a new rifle, you need to definitely check that out. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate it. Brandon, Fonzy, thanks a bunch. Let's do it again.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
You made it. That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram at the Western Huntsman and write us a good review at Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.